Hello, welcome back to the Retro Game Club podcast, Season 5, Episode 14, which is Episode 150. I am Rob, and joining me is someone that's randomly fusing things around his house, Hugh.
Yeah, this is the problem. You play that new Zelda game enough, you do actually think about things like that sometimes.
Yeah, my kid and I were hiking, and we saw, a very smooth log. And,
oh, yeah.
That looked exactly like a tree after you cut it down in Zelda, and I was about to fuse it and make a raft.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for me, it's more like, I don't want to bend over to pick that up. Maybe I can fuse a couple pens together.
Yeah.
That's what I tend to build. I tend to only build dumb things in the new Zelda game. Mm-hmm. I wanted to, you've got like those little Kwirks that are missing their friend. That's the new thing they added.
Yeah.
So the other day I was driving some of them around. I built a box car,
mm-hmm.
meaning I fused together two wooden boxes and stuck wheels on it,
mm-hmm.
and just drove that around for a while. It was not very durable, was the only problem.
Do you send any Koroks just hurling down a side of a mountain or anything?
Yeah, not on purpose. I don't intentionally torch. I know you could strap a rocket to them and just launch them somewhere.
Yeah.
But I don't do that. I'm actually, because I'm trying to get all the weapon slots or whatever it is you get from doing that. So I can build more dumb weapons, so I can build more, I can build the gluten sword or whatever, I did that because I built a wheat sword and decided that would be kind of funny if you had enemies who were deathly allergic to gluten.
Yeah.
You fused wheat to a sword and hit them. I'm not trying to make fun of people who legitimately have gluten intolerance. I just thought that would be a funny thing you could do in the game.
Yeah, I think I made a meat shield or something like that.
Yeah, I've never done that. I have some really dumb shields. I mean, I fuse some really, really dumb things to shields because you can fuse anything and walk around with it.
Yeah.
But I have, I've been playing the game, I don't know how many hours, countless already. And I made a shield. I just fused two shields together. And that thing has lasted, in terms of game time, 3 months.
Yeah.
This thing seems to be completely indestructible. I also built a stone slab shield. Which is basically fireproof. So if you have enemies that shoot fire and stuff at you, it's pretty indestructible. I also found out yesterday when I was playing, the things that fall down from the sky, those chunks of ruins. You can fuse those to weapons and shields also.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Because I just found a cave and I needed to break some rocks, and I was looking for a rock, and I just by coincidence saw that thing light up and used that instead.
When do you think you're gonna finally beat the game?
I don't know, a couple weeks maybe. I'm still my character's just about maxed out of things to do that are not main story related at this point. Mm-hmm. So at some point I will end up I'll probably finish it at some point.
Yeah, I finally finished it yesterday. It was a good feeling, good and bad feeling. I didn't want it to end, but also I wanted my life back.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, and there's a new I'm a big fan of the Legend of Heroes series, and there's another game coming out, I think mid-July, the next game in the series comes out. It came out in Japan 3 years ago, and it's just coming out in the US now. I remember because the trailer for this game dropped the first day of lockdowns. And I was like, oh, I wish that game was out now so I could have something to do.
Yeah.
But no, it's now coming out 3 years later when I suddenly don't have free time and instead will be trying to find a time to squeeze it in because, things get busy. I've been way too busy lately.
Yeah, what else have you been up to?
That's a good point. I probably should look at my notes here. So did you see? I have in my notes things I actually looked at. Did you see the licensed McDonald's game that came out? McDonald's commissioned a Game Boy Color game as a tie-in to the new Grimace Happy Meal or something.
I'm looking at this now.
So what happened is McDonald's released a berry-flavored Grimace shake. According to my youngest kid, it's completely disgusting. Anyhow, it's yeah, some kind of tie-in. They made a Game Boy game, actually Game Boy Color. And, I went to go, I downloaded it, but I haven't played it yet because I'm all lazy like that. And it was funny, when I went onto the site where it was posted, the very first, and at that time only comment, was someone complaining about it. Because what I've learned on the internet is that if you give away something for free, people will complain about it.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
So this was a complaint that they released it as a .gb file instead of a .gbc file, which is quite an atrocity. Everyone involved should be rounded up for that, of course.
Yeah.
Well, how I just have a question. Like, how empty is your life that that's a thing you feel you need to complain about?
I mean, you've been on Reddit before. There's a lot of empty souls out there.
Yeah. I mean, you really, truly have nothing better to do with your life at that point. Yeah, and then I've been kind of working on another article that I want to talk about because I might end up scrapping it.
Okay.
It's reviewing a series of games that aren't listed, somehow are not listed on GameFAQs or Moby Games, which is incredible to think about. Everything is listed on GameFAQs and Moby Games, but I found a series of 8 games that are not listed on them. And it's not for an obscure console. So this is I don't want to tease it, but maybe someone will piece together what I'm referring to. It's, a series that is a recognizable name that at one point produced 8 games that literally no one documented or did a walkthrough for or anything. It's really bizarre.
No, I'm not putting it together.
Yeah, someone might figure it out. But it turns out I thought I owned all 8 games. I only own 6 of them, so I'm reviewing those first and going to try and track down the other 2. They're not expensive or anything. You can get them for just a few dollars.
Interesting. Can't wait for that.
Yeah. It lets you know they play on the PC. They're playable on Windows. You can play them as far back as Windows 98 for sure, because I played them in Windows 98. So it's a series that has a name people would recognize, and it's 8 games that play on Windows that do not have pages anywhere.
No, I'm not putting it together. It has been kind of a long week. I'm a little brain dead.
Yeah, well, no, it's not. Those are vague hints intentionally. But if someone can figure out which 8 games I'm talking about, that would be, go ahead and email us. Email at retrogameclub.net and let me know what you think these 8 games are.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that.
What have you been up to?
Let me see. Well, like I said, I finished Tears of the Kingdom. It's pretty good. Okay. The last battle feels a bit Metroid-like, which take that for what it is. If you like Metroid Prime type end battles, I guess you'd love that. Okay. But I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I didn't want it to end, but I'm glad it did because I get that part of my life back. And, what else? And I was thinking about it as I was playing this game. What do you think the fuse code looks like? Do you think it's one big nested switch statement? That's
no, I would. I'm trying to think through how I would implement it, but probably not like that because that wouldn't be very. I don't think that'd be fast. I think that'd be too slow. I don't know what it looks like, but it would. Yeah, it's. Okay, no, it's probably not a switch statement. It's probably it's going to be a tree structure of some sort, right? It's going to be a data structure with, I have to think it's probably a B tree of some kind.
Yeah, some hard-coded B tree.
Yeah, something like that is what I'm guessing. I would have to think through how I would implement that myself. Because at some point you have, I think all the, I don't think it's dynamically creating new weapons. I wonder if it is, though. It could possibly that they don't do anything, but they have some system to just kind of link the objects together. And it's not like they have a database where it's here's the, spear sword, right? Because they're all very specific combinations, right? I doubt they, I doubt they actually have a list of everything that can possibly be created. Maybe you can fuse something the developers never really thought of fusing that happens to work.
Because it's just crazy that it makes it look completely different after you do that. You know what I mean? So I was thinking, gosh, how would they do this?
But most of the time, the fuse, on the shields, the fused object is just a smaller version of the original object. If you made a Hudson shield,
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. That's one of the more hilarious ones to walk around with. It's wooden, though, so it's not very good.
Yeah.
But it looks fun.
I'm trying to think what else I've been up to. I tried to, that PC Engine CD core for the Pocket.
Yeah, I wanted to know about that because I was debating if I was going to try that.
I upgraded. So there's just an updater script for the Pocket that someone wrote, and it's fantastic.
Okay. Can you still play game? Can you still just stick a cartridge in, though, after you do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's real firmware. It's not like pirated firmware or anything.
Okay, so it's firmware from analog.
Yes, it's just the script does everything for you. It checks for latest firmware, it checks for latest cores, that kind of thing. And so I just ran that this morning. The PCE CD core was there. I followed the instructions to get a game to work, and it just crashes. So that's the only cores. That's like PC Engine games work fine, Neo Geo games work fine. This is the first core that I just can't get working. I'm sure it's something I'm doing.
Yeah. My experience with PC Engine emulators is they're all very picky about what you name the sys card and where you store it.
That definitely could be it. Yeah.
Because, like, with RetroArch, I finally gave up and, like, literally copied the sys card file to every directory that I had games in. So every game directory has a copy of the sys card file, because at the end of the day, that's the only thing I could ever get to work with RetroArch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that doesn't even get you started on the arcade card and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. I like the arcade. I mean, the analog, the arcade card games would be pretty bad anyway, so I don't think you have enough buttons.
Oh, true. Oh, good point. Yeah.
Most of I'm not saying, someone's going to write in and say that some of the arcade card games don't use 6 buttons. Many of the arcade card games, possibly all of them, but possibly not, use the 6-button controller.
Yeah. It's kind of what it was made for.
Yeah.
But, and other than that, actually been out to a few concerts lately. Went to...
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Went to Weezer and Modest Mouse.
Okay.
And I do have a history with Modest Mouse, and I used to love them, but Weezer was great, and Modest Mouse was legitimate, like, objectively phoning it in. Not as good as they used to be. And then I went to another show that my wife wanted to go to, Counting Crows and Dashboard Confessional. And
okay, that's a weird pairing.
Yeah, Dashboard Confessional is great, and Counting Crows, I don't want to say they were phoning it in, but it was almost exactly as you would have expected it to be. So after a while, we're just kind of bored. I don't know. It was the definition of fine,
Yeah.
But we got a few more shows left this summer, so I'm excited to be going to a lot of concerts again. And I guess we have a podcast with an actual topic this week.
Yeah. We should get to that. No, that's enough. Tears of the Kingdom talk.
Yeah. And I guess some company named Atari is releasing a new 2600 cartridge this year.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, other people have done releases, but this one is working with the Atari Holdings Corp.
Yeah, MiSTer Run and Jump is the name.
Yeah, it looks fine.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, overall, like my opinion on the company is starting to change a little bit since the Atari 50 collection. Mm-hmm. Because it's like, okay, they did that really well, and I think they're overall turning into pretty decent caretakers of the Atari IP at this point, and it seems like they want to expand into other franchises, right? They bought a lot of IP from other companies. Like at this point, if they bought like all the Intellivision IP, you'd probably feel relieved, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes, please let that happen.
Like, do Atari 50, but for Intellivision, which you can't because Intellivision sold 2 of their bigger name games to some other company. But, like, yeah, they handled Atari 50 well. Like, well, let them have some other collections.
Exactly. Yeah, why not? At least we don't need to use Atari Coin or whatever it was called.
Yeah, I mean, they still do sketchy things like that from time to time, right? It won't be long before they're going to release like Atari GPT or some nonsense at some point, right?
Yeah.
Like,
what else do we have here? We have Recalbox, which is a Jamma adapter for the Raspberry Pi, which these have existed before, but this is a very nice one that fits right on the GPIO board. for your latest Raspberry Pis, and it looks very nice and convenient. So
what does this do?
So Jamma is the standard for, I guess, like 1989, maybe before that, and onward, arcade cabinets.
Yep, I know that part.
Yep.
What does this adapter do?
So you could pretty much use RetroArch in an arcade cab. So if you just want certain arcade games in a cabinet, you could use this to do that with.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's to let you set up like a main box on a real arcade cabinet as opposed to one of the DIY cabinets, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. And this does a lot of the heavy lifting for you, so it makes it a lot easier. So it looks like it works with a Pi Zero too. A 02W.
That's not going to, well, whatever. I don't know how well that plays MAME. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It might. I mean, maybe some older games are fine. I mean, I played MAME games pretty well on like a Pentium 100. Mm-hmm. So I know you don't need a ton of horsepower, but I guess it just depends what you want to do. And
then next article, it's not an article. It's just that there's a new website called rpubs.com from MiSTer Add-ons. MiSTer Add-ons is where you could buy a MiSTer and a ton of accessories. It's kind of like the American well-known place to buy MiSTer stuff and actually get what you bought. And this is a database of latency from controllers to the MiSTer. And so, anytime I'm bad at a video game, I immediately blame latency if I'm emulating. And there's no way that it's just me not being good at games or getting older and slower. But yeah, so this shows you really the fastest ones out there and which ones to avoid. And it's crazy how big of a difference there is between like some of the 8-bit DOE ones. Like some of them are the best and some of them are the worst. Well, not worst.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I am like a hard, as you may know, I use 8-bit DO controllers almost exclusively at this point.
Yeah.
For everything. I have 2 with it. No, wait. I have 3 within like 2 feet of me right now. I got their Genesis one, TurboGrafx, and the one for Switch.
Yeah, they're all in here. You could see the real latency of them to see if it's you or your controllers.
I probably should look.
And I think they also differentiate between whether it's wired USB or Bluetooth or 2.4 gigahertz wireless. Really cool. A lot of work has gone into this. So big shout out to them. And now I know it's my controller, not me. The strangest news of the week is a something called DS Reality, and it's a DS emulator in AR. So it's for holographic 3D imaged DS emulation, I guess. It looks like this is in very early development, but very active development. So I don't know who would use this, but I'm excited to see what they actually do with this. And then
your Core 2.4. Okay.
Did you find yours yet?
No, I can't read the label.
Oh.
All right, here it is. The PCE. Oh no, don't go. See, this is all Amazon links. They're trying to get you to buy stuff. How dare the site try and make money? It has a latency of 7.424.
That's not too bad.
Okay.
You're fine with that, yeah.
Okay. What about the SN30? Okay. Keep going. I'm really fascinated by this now.
And then
SN30 Bluetooth is that's 10 milliseconds. No wonder I'm.
Oh yeah, that's why you suck
Zelda.
at Genesis.
That's why I'm bad at Legend of Zelda. All right, there you go.
Oh, the SN30. Yeah, that's Super Nintendo 30. That's right. Yeah.
Well, it's the SN30, but I use it for the Switch because it has 2 analog. It's shaped like a Super Nintendo controller.
Yeah.
But it has 2 analog sticks.
Yeah.
And works with the Switch.
Now, careful. Those do have firmware upgrades that have fixed latency problems in the past. So if you never upgraded your firmware, that could be dated.
All right, I'm back. All right.
What else do we have? Retro RGB. Speaking of Zelda, the NES, the original Zelda game, has been ported to the SNES, and it's exactly like sprite for sprite, gameplay mechanics exact, except there's no slowdown or sprite flicker or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of these articles because this is just like, okay, well, it's fine until Nintendo's lawyers find out about it. So I don't know.
Well, since they didn't use any original source code, I think it'll be fine, but we'll see.
Because Nintendo is always a big fan of you just completely copying their IP. I didn't use any of the source code to Super Mario Brothers, but I don't think I could make a Super Mario Brothers movie.
Well, that's different. Anyway, this next article, I think, is my favorite of the week, and it is a new SCUMM emulator called Dream with 2 M's. And it has a long FAQ about what it is and why it's different than SCUMM VM. They're supposed to exist together, use SCUMM VM for certain things and Dream for others. And I kind of like where this guy's head is at, where this should be a little bit more accurate, but it's not going to support nearly as many games on purpose. So it'll do like the early classic SCUMM games like Maniac Mansion, Monkey Island, early 3D like Grim Fandango, Escape from Monkey Island, and mid-90s stuff like X-Wing, Dark Forces, stuff like that.
But they're not going to release the source code, he said, which is always kind of makes me wonder what's going on there.
He says what's going on there. He said, and that's kind of where I connected with him, where he was like, I would have to clean up my code. I work with large groups of people at work, like large coding groups at work. And this is my alone project. I don't want input, which I can respect.
Yeah, but you can also set up a GitHub repo and just reject any issues or requests, which is what I do.
Yeah. And then I forget if I put this one here. GB Studio Central launches gorgeous magazine that evokes Nintendo power. So if you are a GB Studio coder creating new Game Boy games, you have a new magazine to read.
Are they trying to collect money?
That I didn't look at.
I don't care if they are trying to collect money. It really doesn't matter to me at all. But I've seen a lot of these attempts at digital retro magazines over the years, and I've backed at least one on Kickstarter, or maybe it was Indiegogo, or I don't know what. It's really, really hard to get people to pay for magazines.
Oh yeah, for sure, even digital ones.
Yeah, once you start collecting money, then you have to produce something.
Yeah.
Oh, it says here they have a Patreon. Okay, so the way it's going to work is, okay, so the digital Patreon is $7.50 and the physical Patreon is $20, and they're going to release it on a quarterly basis, which is probably about reasonable, right? You definitely can't do a monthly Game Boy magazine.
No.
I mean, the quality of the pictures look good. I mean, I don't think the price is bad or anything.
Yeah, I still subscribe to Apple Juice magazine, the Apple II quarterly magazine, and it actually shows up physical at my house.
Okay.
I think I've only read 2. I just keep forgetting to cancel the subscription, but anytime it shows up, I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah, I have a hard time reading magazines. I don't know. I used to like collecting magazines, and now I'm I got to get rid of all these magazines.
I have a digital subscription to one of those Metro magazines that uses Pocket Mags or whatever app.
Okay.
And I only read it 2 to 3 times a year. I'll just power through them. But each time I do that, I completely enjoy it. And this last article is posted by Zach. A rare Sega Dreamcast Devkit worth thousands turns up in a recycling shop. And I don't know about that. It's technically worth thousands, but on eBay, I have at least 2 of these watched, and all of them have been there for literal years.
Yeah.
Not even just a year and 11 months. I'm talking a few years. People are not actually paying thousands of dollars for this stuff.
Yeah, because you can do Dreamcast development without a Dreamcast dev kit.
Yeah, yeah.
That's probably the reason. You don't need to go buy an expensive dev kit.
Yeah, it's cool to have, to look at, to play with, but you don't need it. And also, it might actually be more difficult to use it.
So was that a recycling event, or?
I think it just showed up at the recycle facility.
Okay.
But so we have a topic this week, right?
Yeah, it's not Dreamcast dev kits. Really, I don't think, is there any system you actually need a dev kit for at this point if you want to do homebrew development? I'm sure there is, but I mean, like the mainstream systems are all pretty well covered. Like there's tooling that is going to be better than the old school dev kit. So other than like you want that thing just to collect it.
And you could just use BurgerLib to do a lot of the heavy lifting.
You could do that. You could do, yeah, there's a variety of things out there you can do. It's more like the dev kit is like, so I can test it with like deep, like there's emulators with debuggers already. So we don't need that really. Maybe for like mastering, like for some of the there might be like a CD system where there's some, like, I don't know if there's a 3DO homebrew community. Someone can Google it while I'm talking. But like, I know that had like a weird mastering process. CDI doesn't use a standard format. So it could be something where maybe for things that didn't use standard like Red Book formats, that you have to have the dev kit to make the CD image. I don't know.
Yeah.
But even stuff like CDI has got to have like things you can just run in Linux at this point, or Windows or whatever.
I would agree. Yeah. No one's going to pay thousands of dollars, and if they do, it'll just be to sit on their shelf.
Yeah.
But what's our topic this episode? I think you came up with it, or I can't. It's been so long.
Yeah. Well, we were kind of talking about different topics. I said, hey, we should talk about LaserDisc games because it's 2023 right now, and 40 years ago was sort of peak LaserDisc game. It was sort of 83 was maybe the best summer to ever like go into an arcade. What people talk about, like the video game market crash towards the end of the year. Summer 83, I don't think anyone thought there was an impending market crash, right? Arcades were pretty hot. There are tons and tons of new games, and LaserDisc was kind of taking off as like the hot, trendy new thing. And I put a few links like to magazines that are reviewing LaserDisc games of 83. And also there's, I don't know if you watched this, the Starcade episode about Dragon's Lair.
No, I didn't get to that one. I read the articles though.
Yeah, it's like Dragon's Lair is the only game featured in the entire episode. And no one's very good at it. But then again, it was a new game. And I think this must have been like a sponsored post. An 80s equivalent of sponsored post. Because I don't know why else they would make an entire episode rotating on just one game. It's fun to watch though. I would definitely tell people to go ahead and watch it. They must have modified the game because it seems to transition scenes faster than the real arcade game. So there's some editing going on there, I think, because the idea of Starcade is you only have 30 seconds to play a game. So they're, I think for TV purposes, clipping out some of the transition scenes.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
But then I put a link to an issue of Joystick that talks about Dragon's Lair, and one I actually kind of perused a bit in the past week, which was, these titles are always so long. Video Games Volume 1, Number 10, 1983, which has like a whole section like arcade preview of 1983. So it talks about LaserDisc games. One of these, I think the first one in the notes is a magazine we actually reviewed because I was reading it. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this letter section. It's people complaining about stuff. It's a real shocker. But if you look at like some of these, the arcade preview, I put a note in here. Jump directly to page 61 in this magazine. Did you look at this?
I looked at this, yeah.
There is a tabletop joust game. Have you ever seen that before?
No. No, I have not.
Do you think it existed?
Other than this one, I don't think so. I really don't think this existed.
I haven't looked real hard for it, but I've never seen one of these. I feel like I've seen darn near everything.
Hey, hey, this did exist. It's on Pinside.
Okay.
From April 1983. Estimated current value is about 12,000.
Okay, because I bet very few of them exist. Yeah, it says right here, Cocktail, 176 pounds, distributed by TNT Amusements.
There's one for sale for 14,000 right now.
On eBay?
On Pinside. Here,
Okay.
I'll give you this link.
Oh, wow. Almost worth it. Oh, wait, so where did that show up? This is chat. I don't know this site. Is this site okay?
Yes, it's very well
I've never been
known.
on it. Wow. Yeah, that's the game. So it's Joust Pinball. Oh, that's why I wasn't finding it, because it's actually a pinball joust. I was looking for, thought it was an arcade game. This makes it even more desirable somehow.
Yeah, it's so strange. It doesn't look like a very in-depth pinball, but it looks like you're playing against someone on the other side.
Yeah, it is. It looks like player versus player pinball. I've
want to
seen
play
Cocktail
this.
Pinball, but never one like this.
I really want to play this game now.
Wow, it's pretty amazing looking. All right, so where are my notes about LaserDisc games? I would just say go read that magazine. It's pretty good. Great preview of they talk about, like, there's this new thing called Mario Brothers. They talk about all kinds of exciting stuff. So at least from my recollection, the game Astron Belt was the first game I ever saw in an arcade. I think it was likely not the first ever LaserDisc game, but it's like effectively the first, because I think it's the first almost anybody saw. So that's a shooter game that happens to have like extremely high, cartoony graphics in the background, right? I don't know. Do people need a primer on on what LaserDisc was? Or do most people listening to this point understand the concept of this was a cabinet that had a LaserDisc player inside? And sometimes when you think of LaserDisc, you think of games where it's like an interactive cartoon, like Dragon Slayer. But there's other games like Astron Belt or Mach 3 where the LaserDisc was playing a high quality background, using real footage or higher graphics, higher quality graphics than what you would get out of other traditional hardware at that time.
Was Mach 3 the helicopter game?
Well, it was
a flying game.
You were flying, yeah. I was gonna say, if a helicopter going Mach 3, I don't know if it's too soon to
that
make a joke,
work.
but a helicopter going Mach 3 would end up like that submarine that was just in the news, right? Like, like not a good idea. Yeah, no, it was like a fighter jet, yeah. And
the ground was
real,
film,
film, yeah. It looked great.
Yeah, it did look really cool.
So I put a list here of things I actually saw in the arcade in 1983 when I was a kid. Dragon's Lair. Well, actually, I wrote, this is things I saw in the arcade when they were new, which does not apply 1983. But Dragon's Lair, which I did see, there were, literal lines to play Dragon's Lair. I don't mean like 2 or 3 people. I mean like a line.
Yeah, because it's the first time you could play a cartoon.
Yeah. Yeah, for most people, this was the first one they would ever see. I saw Space Ace, which was completely impossible. I still can't get past the first screen. Something called Cliffhanger, which is based on an anime. It's based on a cartoon that, of course, in America, if you knew about anime cartoons in 1983 in America, you had to like actually go to Japan. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
There wasn't an anime section at your library. There wasn't the internet. Like, you learned about it from like a family trip to Japan or something, or a business trip, whatever you were there for. Not my problem. But that was a weird one because that looked much more like a show, right? But I didn't realize that it actually was a show, and that was in like the lobby of a local like mom and pop VHS rental store.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember a time when like VHS rental stores would just have arcade games in them.
Oh, yeah. Pre-Blockbuster times.
Yeah.
For sure.
7-Eleven used to have arcade games, too, right? I mean.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Every place did. Pizza Hut, yeah. Every place had an arcade cab.
Yeah, we should go back to that time in life.
Yeah.
Saw something called Thayer's Quest, which was a adventure game. It's, I would not necessarily call it King's Quest inspired because it predates King's Quest V, but it's, you would look at the graphics and think it's reminiscent of that, but it's not like a real adventure. It's like a sort of a choose your own adventure type of game. And I believe it was a full $1 to play when I saw it in the arcade.
I had looked this one up. I'm not sure if I've seen these in real life. I had to watch a YouTube video on it.
Yeah. I only saw it once, and it did have like a save system.
Wow.
Yeah.
How?
You would basically, it could store you basically made a password for your save file, and you could go back and punch that in and restore your game where it was. But if you think about it, it's really not. If it's just a choose your own adventure game, you don't have inventory and a score and all that stuff. It's just your progress through the story. Like that's 1 bit or 1 byte, I should say.
Yeah, 1 byte
to store your save file. It's just where are you on this decision tree of the story, right? So let's see. Definitely saw Mad Dog McCree in the arcades, which I never really clicked was a LaserDisc game, but of course it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the time, like that came out 10 years after the LaserDisc craze. So it never really occurred to me that was running a LaserDisc. I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's got a video card or something. I don't know what it's doing, right? That was like, but no, that was LaserDisc. And that was, kind of the end of like the arcade period for me, where like Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 were in the arcades, before PlayStation came out and you could have like a real 32-bit system in your home. So I saw that in a lot of arcades while going to play like the Mortal Kombat games or Virtual Fighter or whatever else was out at the time. And then like LaserDisc games that I saw after they were due would be like the other Dragon Slayer games. There's 2 others. Time Traveler, which I saw at an arcade inside an abandoned shopping mall. I forget if I mentioned that story before. Yeah. But they had Time Traveler. This was in Cincinnati. I don't know if they still have the abandoned shopping mall there or if they finally bulldozed it. And I don't know if the arcade's still there. I guess I could look that all up, but I'm too lazy today. And games I was aware of but never saw in person. Bega's Battle, which I watched a video of, and it looks completely horrible. Did you watch a video of this game?
No, I don't know that one.
It's some kind of like Space Invaders inspired shooter, but with like really giant characters and a background that's like an acid trip.
Okay. I'll definitely have to check that one out.
No, you do not have to. But and then I talked a little about home versions, right? So not counting like PC and emulation, like you want to get home versions of these games. Sega CD and 3DO have an awful lot of these games. Like Sega CD has a ton of LaserDisc ports, including things that were in like Japan arcade, like was it Road Avengers and Time Gal, things that you would have gotten in Japan, but that we didn't get in America. And they look pretty good. Again, Sega CD is not going to be the same original quality, but it looks pretty good. Like I think Dragon Slayer on Sega CD looks really good.
Yeah, it's one of the best ports for sure.
Yeah. 3DO has a lot of these ports too. It has, Dragon Slayer, Space Ace, Mad Dog McCree, a lot of stuff. It has Thayer's Quest, but because of some IP thing, it's called Kingdom the Far Reaches.
Okay.
I don't know why they changed the name, but they did. That you can play. Kingdom the Far Reaches is probably on Steam for like 3 cents right now, right?
Yeah.
Like that received a few ports. The CDI has a ton of these ports too. Like it has all 3 Dragon Slayer games. But the counterpoint is it's the CDI. So.
It's probably more laggy than the original arcade.
Oh yeah. They Midwest Gaming Classic usually has a CDI you can play, and it's almost always a Dragon Slayer game on there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really look any better than the Sega CD. I would argue it maybe looks worse and does not play well. Sega CD, like the Dragon Slayer port on there, they really, I would say they became very generous with the timings on it. You know, you don't have to have like pinpoint accuracy on some of the rooms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
3DO plays more like the arcade. Like you'll die a lot more in the 3DO version than the Sega CD version. And did I mention that I own a Space Ace LaserDisc?
You have before. Not this episode, but you have before.
Yeah. Yeah, so every time I see a bin of LaserDiscs anywhere, I now go through them after I found one for $3.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I guess after the games weren't popular, they just sold these discs in stores. Like, you can watch the game on your home LaserDisc.
Mm-hmm.
You can see, like, the best cut of Star Wars and then watch Space Ace.
I wonder if have you ever tried, you don't have a player, so
I don't know.
I was going to say, if you play it, I wonder if it's in order so you could just watch it, but I doubt it. I bet there was some certain seek time thing where they had to do certain things a certain way.
The generic label on it says you could just watch it in order. Makes it sound like you're watching a playthrough.
Okay. Cool.
Although at some point it's got to have all the death scenes. So
exactly,
you're probably watching,
yeah.
Or so it's got to load to a scene. You have to see like every outcome of that scene. It's not like watching a speed run or like 100% playthrough. It can't be like that, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, that laser would be jumping all over the place.
Oh yeah, yeah. It would be. It can't be that. So, maybe if I find a LaserDisc player someday, I'll do it. It's the problem is, like I said, I'm hugely tempted one day to have like a LaserDisc room in my house.
I like
I haven't run this idea by my wife yet, but like LaserDisc movies are just fascinating to me because it's kind of like the best, or I say best, but like my favorite period of films.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the greatest hits of like 70s, 80s, and 90s, all in like a permanent format. Like there's a movie my wife mentioned today, and I mean, I spent 30 minutes trying to figure out how I could possibly stream it. It's available on streaming services. I just couldn't figure out how to actually stream it.
Mm-hmm.
And here it's like, and the art on these things are great. Like the wall would be all the boxes. Like you can imagine how this room is going to be set up. But I still got like 2 kids that live here. One lives here part-time. So maybe if I can get her own place.
And then you would have to, it'd actually help with, like being active, because you'd have to get up every 30 minutes and flip the disc.
Flip the disc, yeah, that's the problem. Even with like the Star Wars movies, they're allegedly very good versions on LaserDisc.
Oh yeah, yeah, I've watched them.
Yeah, because they're digital and they don't have. The only change they have is the Han shoots first change, right?
I don't think there's no changes. I don't think.
I thought they still. I have to look that up. I thought that was still butchered in there, but they don't have like the McClunky editions and all that other like. Here's some random things wandering around in the background.
No, there's no Jamma in A New Hope.
Yeah. So I would legitimately like that. That would be a fun room to have, but that's a ways off. And then I put in the notes here that I was sort of thinking out loud about, when you look at like 1983 gaming magazines, you can tell like the arcades are super hot and there's all this new technology and things are great. But then, the market kind of bottomed out. And I kind of wonder if LaserDisc games played a factor in that because, the selling point of home consoles was you could play your arcade favorite games at home. And they didn't look the same, but they were passable. Right? I mean, Space Invaders on the 2600 is really good, and Asteroids on the 2600 is really good. And television had great ports. Maybe Pac-Man on 2600 wasn't great. I actually thought it was kind of fun anyways. But then you would see these LaserDisc games, and you were nowhere near owning a system in your home that could play those. I know there was a thing called the RDI Halcyon that was made that was supposed to be like a home LaserDisc player, but no one has one. And, I wonder, I kind of wonder out loud, like how many people saw how much better games looked in the arcade now and realized, but my Atari's never going to be able to do anything like that.
And it costs $1 for 10 seconds because you die right away.
Yeah, yeah. I think people were okay with that, though.
Because it looks so good.
Dragon Slayer still had a huge line.
Yeah, for sure.
So what are your memories here?
Well, Dragon Slayer and the Sega hologram games were my real experience in the arcade. I don't know if you remember the Dragon Slayer with the giant screen.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was the biggest TV I'd seen to date back then.
Yeah.
It was a great presentation. And then years go by, and the Halcyon and Time Traveler game comes out from Sega. And if people don't know, it used pseudo-holographic technology for one of the laggiest experiences you could possibly have. Really cool idea. I kind of wish Sega would bring those back, since they could, use flash memory storage now, and seek times would be really quick. But I mean, the graphics in those, it was like full motion video, but with a black background and just like some triangles and squares and stuff in there, just so there was something else. What did you think of those Sega games?
I did not think they were very fun.
No. But again, with newer technology, I think they could be cool. And back in like 2011, I had some guy, I think from like Flint, offer me a Halcyon for like $200. It worked. Yeah, it worked and everything. And I even think that was a little cheap back then. I just needed to go pick it up, and I was like, still like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
These things are huge. I don't even know how I could fit it through the front door. I don't know if they break in half or whatever.
I don't know what I don't know what your house is like, but that might not fit through the standard house front door. You're
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to bring it around back to where do you have a sliding glass door somewhere?
In that old house I did, but not in this house.
Oh, yeah.
It's yeah. So, but those are worth about $5,000 now, just because not many people kept them. So
yeah,
I could have made a little money there, but it would have not been. It still may have not been worth it. And also, did you know Time Traveler was ported to the PS2 and it came with red blue 3D glasses?
Yeah, I think I knew that in hindsight. Is it on a collection?
I don't know if it's on a collection, but I do know I need to own this thing. Because like red blue 3D glasses are not the same as what's it called? Holograms,
No,
so you lose a lot there.
Oh, they are I think they're pulling a fast one on you with this game.
Oh yeah.
So it's called oh wait, no, this can't be the same thing. I mean, I see a game called Time Traveler DVD, right? And it says PlayStation 2 compatible, which of course it is because it's a DVD.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out which game it actually is. Is it by Sega? Because the thing I see is not the Sega Time Traveler game. It's a different thing called Time Traveler.
Oh, weird.
Called Hologram Time Traveler. Possibly made by Sega. I don't know, but whatever. You keep going. I'm trying to figure out where it is. Arcade. Yeah, it has a DVD release. Weird. So yeah, there's a playable DVD game, and oh yeah. So I one of my magazine scans I did recently, I called this out. So some companies were selling DVD games that they branded as like Xbox or PlayStation 2 games because they had DVD players.
Say that again?
Well, imagine you make a DVD game, like a game you're basically controlling with a DVD menu. Yeah. So when I was doing one of these catalog scans, I noticed some games that were they were DVD games. Like it's a game you control with the DVD menu. Yeah. But they would say works with PlayStation 2 because of course it does. The PlayStation 2 is a DVD player.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely PS2 compatible.
Yes. But I thought it was a very Weasley way of marketing your game.
And then, to kind of close off my feelings is, Myst and Night Trap feel like LaserDisc games to me. So I think they kind of stand on the shoulders of these LaserDisc pioneers, even though I know Night Trap started as a VHS, blah, 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 blah.
Blah, blah, blah. It's VHS, yeah. I was going to note that.
So any closing thoughts on LaserDisc games?
No, I mean, I still really enjoy these kind of games. I mean, you mentioned reflexes getting bad and leg and all that stuff. They're very hard to play nowadays, but they're still fun to watch. And it's, obviously it's not a genre that's going to exist forever. I'm kind of surprised there aren't more people making games in this style today, but it is high effort. It's very high effort to create, the animation for something like this now.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, so much was put into it. So much.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't get into like the names of some of the artists behind these games, but this is like real artists in real animation studios.
Yeah, it's funny. We have a limited time, so we kind of had to plow through that. But I think our game club is going to go pretty quick. We have some pretty simple games here.
I didn't really play anything this week, so it's good.
Well, so mine was Kwirk on the Game Boy. And I got a Game Boy, I think, very soon after it came out. This was a 1990 game, so pretty early. And my first 3 Game Boy games were obviously Tetris, Mario Land, and then Kwirk. And I think I bought Kwirk specifically because it had radical artwork. You play as like a radical tomato that has a mohawk and sunglasses, and you go on a date with your girlfriend, and I don't know, it's like some new town, and you're trying to find your way through it, pretty much like a labyrinth. Anyway, it has a versus mode that you could play against a buddy, or you could do the other mode, which has easy, I think average is the middle, and then expert or difficult, whatever the highest one was. And easy is really the only one I could do. The other ones make me feel really dumb. And yeah, I don't know. It's a block moving game, so kind of puzzle solving. I do really enjoy this one. I feel like a lot of games were inspired by this one. Zach pointed out to me that Sokoban and maybe a few others came out before this, but I feel like this one was really popular. And yeah, it's a very well-made game. And I enjoy it. This wasn't a kind of game I would have liked as I don't know how old I was when Game Boy came out, but I still enjoyed it. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, unfortunately I didn't play it. Is it like Shove It, the warehouse game? Is it that?
Yes. Okay. It's like box moving to get through a maze.
Yeah. Okay. So it's actually so I did play. I do like this type of game, so I need to go play this.
Yeah. This is a well-made one for sure.
Okay.
I
like Shove It, and which is Sokoban might be Shove It. I can't remember.
It did not need story at all.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I unfortunately did not play it because I was just doing a bunch of stuff this week.
What about your game though?
So I stick with my 1983 theme. I did Elevator Action, and this one I actually watched the speed runs because I don't know what it is. I've never been like really great at this game, but it's kind of fun to watch. Like I like the art style and I like the graphics. Graphics and art style I guess are the same thing. Mm-hmm. I like the basic premise, and so I watched this the speed run. It's 10 minutes of your life, so you can watch it over lunch, which is what I did. Mm-hmm. It's a fairly short game once you know what you're supposed to do. Like you basically get to a certain level, get the briefcase. You can play it mostly pacifist. I mean, when you watch the speedrun, they're really not shooting a ton of the enemies. Kind of just a cool concept. I mean, the building is kind of confusing and weird. Like no one would design a building like this.
Yes.
But that's, the least of it. Yeah, then you eventually, you get to the ground and speed off, and the car looks like City Connection at the end. There are a few home ports. I was looking at a few of them. I thought I listed the runs for those in here too, but there's I watched like an NES speed run, which is also really short, and then there's a Game Boy version that actually kind of looks better than the arcade and NES version.
I think I remember that happening where it was like surprisingly good.
Yeah, the Game Boy version looks really good. I don't own it, but with the Pocket, I'm sort of like tempted to go track one down now because it looks like. I mean, the video I saw looks better than the original game. Let's see how much this thing goes for.
Yeah,
you can hear the sound of typing frantically there. Oh boy! Wow. Oh, it's okay. Well, it's a Game Boy Advance version. Okay, so that's still...
That makes sense, yeah.
No. There's a regular Game Boy version, which is kind of like, oh, okay, that's a stupid price. And then there is the Game Boy Advance version, which is like, wow, that is so stupid. Do you want to take a quick guess? Hold on. GBA Elevator Action, Nintendo game. Rare, tested, working. Ships from Japan. No description other than that. There are pictures of it. It has a box.
$120.
You need to go higher.
$200.
Higher.
400.
Higher.
800.
Lower.
Lower.
No, $449.
Wow. That is stupid.
$449. And like loose cartridges are like $26 on eBay for the US original Elevator Action. The Japanese Elevator Action loose is $23.
Okay.
So
you don't really need to know what's going on in this game to play it.
No, you don't. So I guess you could save $3 getting the Japanese version.
Yeah.
But I'm not spending $30 on a loose Game Boy cartridge. I don't care.
Well, what do you let's see, what did I have any notes here? Yeah, I think I like, oh no, that was you. I didn't have any notes, but I had fun playing it. I don't know, it's fine. I don't know, it's fine. That's about it.
Okay.
What are you going to play next?
I'm going to stick at least through the end of summer with 1983 arcade theme, and I'm going to do Track and Field. A game I did not like the first time, but I'm willing to give it another shot.
Well, this was a last-minute decision for me, and I just put in any LaserDisc game. Just pick a LaserDisc game and play it. And if anyone plays a LaserDisc game, Track and Field, Elevator Action
would be my favorite.
That would be a good one. That would be a great game. Elevator Action, Kwirk, Halcyon, anything like that. You do some MiSTer latency testing. Email us. email@retrogameclub.net. That is email@retrogameclub.net. And you think you'd take the emails?
Yeah, no, I'm thinking through of a reality show like where we take athletes, and you're like, you're going to be competing in track or field, but they don't know which one ahead of time.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
Yeah, that would be fun. All right, wait. Hello, my name is Woody. I'm a longtime listener that really enjoys your show. My favorite parts are hearing game store stories and hearing about Rob's arcade machine collection in the basement. I was born in 1976 and lived near two large seaside towns that were full of arcades. Could be Jersey, could be England.
Yeah.
Right? Either one. Every year we would visit on the holidays and watch the technology advance, and it was so exciting, to realize you were part of the evolution of video games. You had a question for me. Did you have a name for people that came into the shop to browse but rarely bought anything? No, I did not. Those were mostly kids, and we probably just called them kids. We didn't have a lot of adults who came in and browsed but never bought anything.
Because that's probably a common thing now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Would you go into a GameStop just to browse?
Yeah, you're right. Probably only as a teenager. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like the mall, you would basically just be there all day because they had air conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, you just browse at a lot of stores. But I just thought of them as kids. We had nicknames for specific customers, but not for types of customers. I don't want to share some of those because I was a different time and I was much younger. None of them are like inappropriate, but they're not polite. But he mentions that every Saturday he would do a circuit of the video game stores in his town to see all the latest tech. A couple memorable moments were seeing a golf game on the CDI and Need for Speed on the 3DO. Awesome.
Yeah.
And so thanks. Yeah. Seaside towns. Yes. I've never been to New Jersey Shore, but I understand it's that seems like if you could go back to like any time period, like the boardwalk with like the hundreds of arcades and like going back to that in the 80s would seems like that would have been amazing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like
a total different reality.
I was thinking, I was watching The Lost Boys last Halloween because that's a movie I watch every 5 or 6 years around Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And like I know that's the other coast. That's the other end of the country, right?
Yeah.
That's California.
Yeah.
Is that California, or was that like Portland? No, Portland's not on the coast.
Saxophone guy could only exist in California.
Yeah, it has to be California. You're right. Yeah, but like that whole like the whole atmosphere of the beachside town, and I know England's got beachside towns like that, and I'm sure other countries too. That sounds like such a great time. All right, another email from Ryan. I think this is 2 first-time emailers, so that's exciting.
Nice.
He is also a fan of heavy barrel with the rotary controllers. So if you want the rotor stick controller, they seem to be made of 100% unobtainium. Some show up on eBay from Akari Warriors part outs. He looked in Tokyo at an arcade shop in Akihabara, and they had none, new or used. There is a homebrew rotary controller using a rotary encoder and some 3D printing, but he hasn't tried it yet. For game controller emulation, the shoulder buttons work reasonably well.
Oh, yeah, I could see that. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I would
Not
try
quite
that.
the same, but yeah, heavy barrel is like, it just controls so well.
Yeah. And some people write in about LaserDisc games. Someone really likes Cliffhanger back in the day, and obviously Dragon Slayer and Space Ace.
Yeah, someone at least one person notes that Cliffhanger is based on Lupin the Third. Is the anime. I referenced it was an anime, but I drew a blank on the name.
I recognize that name.
Yeah. It's the arcade game came across as a James Bond-y kind of story.
Let's see. A few people write in about elevator action. Says he probably played this more than anyone else here. I got this in 1986 when I was only 12 and just would spend hours on it. I barely made it half an hour with this game.
Yeah.
And the Switch port of Elevator Action Returns comes with the original arcade game, which includes in the main menu. That's cool. I did not know that. And let's see. Someone else calls out the Game Boy port that he loved as a kid and would take it all over. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of regret not ever picking that up now because it did look really good.
Yeah. And hey, we made it through this episode with only cutting out a few things in the LaserDisc topic.
Oh no, I probably skipped something.
There's so much. No one comes here for facts, though. Come on.
Yeah, I hope not. Yeah, I not like an interview Don Bluth or anything.
Yeah.
So don't tell me he's dead. I don't know if he is or not.
I do remember before Comic-Cons were really popular, I would go to the sci-fi and Comic-Cons around Michigan, and they weren't nearly as big as they are now. But I remember there used to be bins of people selling just bins of like the original artwork from cartoons and stuff. I guess you'd call that like cell animation. And I remember seeing originals of Don Bluth stuff, including Dragon Slayer, and for like $40, $70. And a few years back, I went and looked online and be like, oh, that might be cool to own something like that. No, it's not cheap anymore.
No.
Not even close.
Not even close, no.
But again, the email, please, thank you all, Alan, Ryan, and all the social media posts. Thank you all for reaching out to us. Please keep writing in, email at retrogameclub.net, or our socials are in our show notes. So please link up and reach out to us there. And we did it. We made it through episode 150.
Yes. So thanks for listening.